I'm Mary McDonald, the proud mayor of the city of Trotwood, and I'm coming out today to just celebrate with the community the Ziks Pharmacy Community Day. So I'm inviting each one of you to come out and to take advantage of the opportunities that are here today. This is a wonderful opportunity for community, and I'm hoping that you will take part. So thanks so much.
right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hey. Welcome to the 8th Annual Community Celebration hosted by Ziks and Wright Dunbar and presented by Premier Health. We have things going on all day long. So we have the forum this morning, then we're going to be outdoors, we have activities and entertainment and information, and this is going to be a fabulous event today. So we want everybody to participate. Use your smartphone, text your friends, put it on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, and get people to come down to Wright Dunbar. We're going to kick off here in a few minutes, but our mayor has to leave because part of her official duties is to perform weddings. And she has a wedding that she has to do. So we don't want to lose her, and we want to be mindful of the time. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dayton Mayor Dan Whaley.
Good morning. Hey, well, I'm always excited to come every year to this event. And sometimes we celebrate and start in the morning, and sometimes we do the celebration at lunchtime. But it's a great pleasure to be here. I want to congratulate Zeke and the pharmacy for their commitment to Wright Dunbar, their commitment to the city of Dayton, and the recognition of having a Community Appreciation Day in Wright Dunbar. This has become a special part of Wright Dunbar every single year to really start the spring season. And we're very pleased to say thank you. And really, this focus around health in our community is really important. And so I hope you get a lot of great information today, particularly around the issues of diabetes. And want to say thank you for Premier and the sponsorship and just the great work today that will come on. I hope everybody gets to really enjoy themselves today and learn a bit and commit to having a healthier life this spring and summer. Can you guys do that? All right, all right. I just want to let you know, I still do. I get up every morning at 5 a.m. and I work out from 5:30 to 6:30, sometimes like this morning at maybe 5:45 I got there. But it's just really important that we take really good care of ourselves so we can walk our neighborhoods, so we can see our friends, see our family, and you know, there's things that we can do that can make us healthier too. So getting to understand that and making sure that we make good life choices are key as we try to make our community stronger and better. And further, I just want to encourage everyone to really pay attention to what's going on with the Affordable Care Act and to make sure that they're contacting their congressmen regularly, especially their senators, now that it's in the Senate. The Affordable Care Act is a key part of making sure that our community stays healthy and that people have access to the care they need. So can you do that for me too? All right, we're in this together. I just want to say welcome to Mr. Simmons. We hope you enjoy Dayton, enjoy our community. We think it's the best place in the world, and we hope you find so too, okay? Thank you. Have a great one.
And I head up PR and community relations for Miami Valley Hospital South for Premier Health. And I am happy to be here this morning to serve as your MC to kind of guide us through the forum this morning. I am now looking, and it looks like our wonderful friends from Vanay's has some absolutely beautiful fruit out. They have everything set up. If you want to grab, feel free to go grab something to eat and come back. While we're continuing with this morning's forum. Before I forget, I want to make sure that you also know a little bit about Walk the Walk that's going to happen tonight in Wright Dunbar, which is a celebration of the Walk of Fame. So as you can see, for a Friday to kick off your weekend, we have a full day of activities. I also want to make sure that you notice that we do have some tables around the room that has great information, so please take the time to pick that up as well. All right, so where's Nana? Where's Nana? He's working. Okay, well, we're going to thank Nana a little later. He's still working, and I understand that, you know, got to work his business. So, okay, so we have a full panel of experts here today, but before we do that, let me tell you about the awesome opportunity that I have this morning, and you just don't know how excited I am. For those who know me, and those who don't boo me, I am a die-hard, long-term, black and gold Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Now I want y'all to understand, is full of it. Let me just tell you, I go back to Bradshaw, Greenwood, Lynn Swan, Jack Ham. Let me tell y'all something. I love the Steelers. So, when I heard who our speaker was, I started to come garbed out because I have a closet full of stuff. Hats, scarves, gloves, purses. But I said I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be compliant since I'm working for Premier today. But I get the pleasure of introducing to you one of our very special speakers this morning. His name is Kendall Simmons. And Kendall, y'all clap for Kendall right now. First of all, and I'm going to put him on the spot. He's probably going to kill me later. I want y'all, let me have this hand right here. Okay, see that? See, that's one ring. See that? See that big thing? That's one ring. See, there's the other ring. Okay? Kendall has 2 Super Bowl rings. And for all you Pittsburgh Steelers haters, which you are, you come talk to me when your team has 6 rings. That's how many we had. Kendall was with the Steelers from 2002 until he retired in 2010. And one of the things that I read in his bio that is pretty awesome is that even though Kendall played in so many games, 70 games that he played in, including Super Bowls in 2006 and 2009, he did so with type 1 diabetes. Okay, did y'all hear me? Okay, so if he was able to do that, there's a reason why, and he's going to talk about how he manages diabetes instead of diabetes managing him. And the other thing that I loved about his bio is he says while he can retire from football, he can't retire from having diabetes. And so without further ado, and he's going to speak later outside for our outside activities, please give a warm Dayton region welcome to my Pittsburgh Steelers, Kendall Simmons.
I'm a little overboard with that.
I'm a fan.
I like it. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. The first thing I want everybody to understand about me, I was blessed with an opportunity to play professional football. But I'm a normal human being just like you are. Same struggles in life, kids getting on my nerves, wife with 18,000 things for me to do in 2 hours.
That's all right.
All while trying to manage type 1 diabetes. And my point with that is that it has to conform to my lifestyle. That's the way I live my life. Each and every day, I wake up in the morning. I wake up with my pump. It doesn't go anywhere. I can't get rid of it. It's with me. I walk around with this all day. My son asks, Daddy, what is that? Daddy will get sick and have to go in the hospital and possibly not be here to take care of you if I don't take care of this. But what I want everybody in this room to understand is you can do it, but it does not have to control your life. You have to make a decision each and every morning you wake up, which street you want to walk down. That's what I do. It falls in line with everything that I have to do. The mayor talked about working out. Now I'm on Central Time. So I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning and went down to the Marriott gym and got me a workout. Didn't feel like doing it, but that's what I wanted to do. I feel better because of it. It helps manage my diabetes. There are so many simple things in your life that you can do without having to wait for a plan or assistance from the doctor to help you manage your diabetes. Like when you go to get groceries, don't drive around the parking lot for 30 minutes trying to find the closest parking space. Park a little bit toward the back and walk. Get your steps in. If you're on the 2nd floor, why take the elevator? Walk on up the steps. If you physically do it, then do that. I played offensive line. Now people look at me and say, there's no way you played offensive line, but that was 70 pounds ago. I played at 320 pounds. And I'm a little below 260 now. It's the smallest I've been since my sophomore year in high school. But I ate on an average of 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day while I was playing. So when I say that, people's face like, ooh. So you think about that. All while trying to manage diabetes. If you know anything about carb count and you have to deal with carbs, think about how much insulin you have to take to cover that amount of food. I would run through a 300 unit pen in a week, easy. Before the week's out, I'm going to grab another pen. But the hardest part for me was when I retired, was taking responsibility for my own health. I had somebody holding my hand the whole time, which I was blessed to have instilled because they had 2 kids that had type 1 diabetes. The Lord put me in a situation to succeed. It was up to me to succeed with it. He gave me the tools. The same reason why you're here with Premier Health, everybody else who are here is sponsoring and part of this event. You have the tools in front of you. If you take them and use them, it's part of your life and you can succeed with it. But if you don't have a mindset when you wake up in the morning, all of this is irrelevant. It doesn't make any sense if you're here and you don't take advantage, but you got to wake up with the right mindset. Don't get me wrong. I roll over on the wrong side of the bed just like everybody else. Don't feel like doing it. And my wife has to check me a lot on that. Like, okay, this ain't right. Because I can't manage you and everybody else. I'm pretty sure every last one of you in here is dealing with it, have a loved one, or somebody that cares about you that has to do that from time to time. Don't get mad at them because that's part of what they're supposed to do. You're lucky if they're doing it for you. When you're alone and you're trying to do it, it's hard. But the one thing is, with any type of health issue that you're dealing with, I was the same way. You put yourself in a bubble, and you don't want to let people into your personal world. You have to give up on that and ask for help and let people understand where your weaknesses are. Each and every day, my daughters help me out. This right here for me, and talking to you guys, is like therapy for me. Because I get an opportunity to talk about what I live with. My grandmother had type 2 diabetes. Passed away when I was 9 years old. In our community, we don't talk about what we live with enough. We're here, and I'm talking about diabetes and whatever other health that they're covering to help you out. If you don't talk about it and don't let your family in on it, especially the younger generation, we have a problem. It's not just your problem. It's everybody in your family's problem and everybody else around you that has to deal with what you're living with. And if you don't manage it, you're putting that burden on them. I got 5 kids. If I don't take care of myself, there's a problem. Because they depend on me. And I want to go in the towel sometimes. I'm going to be honest with you. But I've been so blessed to have an opportunity to do what I'm doing right now and talking to you. I played 8 years in the NFL. Type 1 diabetes and 14 surgeries on top of that. 14 surgeries. So anybody who's dealing with diabetes, you understand that your immune system is weaker than everybody else's. You have to worry about infections. You heal slower. It's all different things like that. So every time I had a surgery, I heal slower than everybody else. That mentally wore on me. Because I had to manage blood sugars on top of it because they were crazy. I'm going to give you guys a hint. And some of you might already know this. If you deal with pain and you have diabetes and it's not in control, you're going to continue to deal with pain. Every time my blood sugar goes high, the issues I have from playing ball, they come back and hurt. As soon as I get my numbers down and get my blood sugars under control, I feel better. Don't punish yourself. If you can do the right things, then do it. I love sweets. Love them. That is a weakness of mine. My wife knows that. My kids know that. Halloween, Christmas party, kid parties, I can't stand them because they come home with candy bags and everything else. And I have my hand doing this thing. I love chocolate. But I've learned to control it. Eat. I'm not saying eat whatever you want to eat, but do it in moderation. 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day as an offensive lineman. I've gotten it down to about 2,500, maybe 3,000. when I'm behaving myself. But that's what works for me. Everybody in here has a certain way about going about doing things. What motivates you? What motivates you every morning to get up and keep moving? Something does. And if it's your family, I hope it is, because that's what does it for me. My kids motivate me. Because being a part of a family and them looking up to me, I gotta do the same thing. I drive them crazy with watching and health and everything else, but that's part of being an adult. At the end of the day, I owe it all to the man upstairs giving me an opportunity to be able to do what I'm doing. And keep pushing. Because I found a purpose of being in front of you, being a speaker, and trying to talk about what I live with, which is extremely hard for me. I'm a total introvert. I don't like being around a lot of people. I like being by myself. But I get a kick out of having touched at least one person in the audience. I hope I said something that will spark a fire under somebody here, because that's my job. That's all I'm here to do, is to try to get you to take better care of yourself. You got family and kids, do it for them. Men, we are extremely stubborn. We don't like people telling us what to do, and we don't like admitting when we're wrong and we have problems. Do it for your family. Show a little humility. There's nothing wrong with that. You gain more respect that way than trying to keep it in and saying, I can do this by myself. You can't. I can and you can. So I've learned it. I had to learn that the hard way. When I retired, this was all on me. I didn't have the trainers taking me to the doctor. I didn't have to find a way around the insurance for me to get extra insulin and all that. When I didn't make an appointment and I forgot to go to the pharmacy, it was my fault. And my wife looked at me like, I can't hold your hand too. And I had to grow up. When you have something going on in your life that's physically taking over, mentally challenging you, you got to step to the plate. And do it for your family, one way or another, because it's going to trickle down, it's going to help them out at some point. So that's all for me. I'm going to go a little more in depth out there. I hope you guys stay around and listen and ask me many questions you would like. But I'm excited to be on the panel today, and so I can answer whatever it is, questions that you may have. So thank y'all for listening to me, and stick around and enjoy the day's event. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kendall, so much, and we look forward to hearing from Kendall a little later when we go outside. All right, so we have, as you can tell, a very awesome panel of experts. Oh, Lano, you returned. Hi, darling. Do you want to say a few words?
Just to say good morning and thank you so much for coming. And thanks to our sponsors, Premier Health, Novo Nordisk, for bringing a wonderful Stila. Kendall, I was looking at your fingers, I saw the Super Bowl ring. Even though I'm a Bengals, I still love you.
Thank you very much, Kendall. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to introduce our panel. I'm going to ask the panelists, when I call your name, to just take 1 minute to just give a very, very, very brief overview as to who you are and who you're representing. And then after that, we're going to have questions that I have that we'll get feedback from, but you should have gotten a sheet of paper. Did everybody get a sheet that allows you to write questions that you may have? If you did not, raise your hand and Kim will get your sheet of paper. What we want to do is, I don't like emceeing events where there's not interaction. And for something as critical about health in our community, we need for you to be active participants. So what we want you to do is, when you hear from these men and women who are professionals, we want you to be able to ask your questions. So if you write your questions down, him and some others will pick them up and we will ask them your questions. You can either ask the question to the entire panel, or if you have a question directed to one of our panelists, I'm sure they'll be happy to address it, okay? So please, please, please write down your questions. Okay, so let's get started. Let me introduce to you my colleague, Sean Hamilton, System Director of Community Benefits with Premier Health. Please welcome Sean.
Good morning, everyone. I appreciate being here. Thank you to the Ziks for putting on this amazing event. My name is Sean Hamilton. As Sharon mentioned, System Director of Community Health and Benefits. That's a fancy title for simply saying my job is to get the community healthy before you hit the hospital. All right, so my job is to think upstream and to figure out root causes of health and not just treating the symptom, but actually treating the root cause of a particular health issue.
You really followed instructions. You did that in less than a minute.
I am not stubborn.
I am. Yes, he is, Kendall. Yes, he is. All right. Thanks, Sean. I'm gonna go to my girl because she has to represent all the women on the panel, and I know she can hold it down because you're the only one up here. Please let me introduce to you Kimberly Bethel, Dr. Kimberly Bethel with Trotwood Physician Center. I've known her forever. Awesome doctor. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Kimberly Bethel. I've been at Trotwood Physician Center for 26 years. And during that time, I'm an internal medicine physician, which is adult medicine. I do see 12 and up, so we do see some children. But on all these years, I've always been told about medicine, and what I was surprised when I was in med school as I was sitting in pharmacy class was we were never taught nutrition as physicians. And I'm thinking, we know more about what to put in our car in terms of what kind of gas, what kind of oil, but we don't know what to put in our body. So the last few years I've been delving deep into nutrition and trying to figure out how to work backwards to prevent disease as opposed to reacting when a person gets sick and then giving pills. So I'm on a natural kick now. Hair, everything, you know, it's all good. So I'm here today to help enlighten, educate, and change how our thinking is in terms of going back to what God made and getting off of so much of what man made. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. Dr. Bethel, I'm sorry. She gave me that side eye. Okay, another longtime friend of mine, awesome physician, Gary Leroy, Dr. Gary Leroy, Wright State University Associate Dean of Student Affairs and Admissions.
Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to see you all here on this beautiful, I guess it's spring morning. I'm Gary Leroy, Dayton native. As a matter of fact, I grew up on Williams Street, just up the street there. My day job is at Wright State University's Boonshaw School of Medicine as the Associate Dean of Student Affairs. People ask me, what do I do? I'm like, it's kind of like being the school principal. The reason that a lot of our students are not here today is because they have classes this morning, so they may come down a little later on. But then my other job is on the east side of 3rd Street at East Dayton Health Center, where I've been about 25 years, working as a specialist in family medicine. See a lot of diabetes and hypertension and chronic lung diseases and such. And then I'm also currently the president for Public Health Dayton and Montgomery County, so that's the Board of Health. So those are the hats that I wear.
That's a lot of hats. That's a lot of hats. Please welcome Dr. Leroy. Okay, so the one thing my mother taught me years ago is to don't step in a hole without looking where you're going. So I am not going to try to pronounce Dr. Eze's name, okay, because I will mess it up and then he will be mad at me. So, he's gone, hit go? He knew I was gonna mess up his name, didn't he? That's why he left, I'm sure, because, does anybody know how to say it? Chahuma, okay. So is he coming back today?
Yes.
Okay, so then I'll be able to pronounce it correctly. Thank you. All right, Alonzo Patterson. Dr. Patterson with Pri-Med Wright Dunbar Pediatrics. He walked like 2 feet to get here today. So he traveled far and wide. But he's a great doc. I've known him for years. Please welcome Alonzo Patterson.
It's working. My name is Alonzo Patterson. I too am a native of Dayton, Ohio. I grew up in Residence Park, so it's just up the road. But actually traveled up and down this street on my way to Wright for 4 years. I'm a general pediatrician. My office has been located at 3rd and Broadway for the last 10 years. I've been doing this for now 25 years. So I've had the opportunity to take care of maybe some of your children and grandchildren, and count it a blessing to have been available to them. I'm also heavily involved with educating medical students. I usually have a student in my office about every month who's either a medical student, nurse practitioner, because I think that there's a certain amount of teaching that needs to happen in the community to really take care of community. And I've been about that for a long time and constantly strive to get better at it, and welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Give him a hand. We really want to thank this gentleman for coming because he was not supposed to be here. We had another physician on the panel. He couldn't be here. He deployed this gentleman all the way from Toledo, and he came and had no idea why he was supposed to be here. But because he asked him, he's here. So we really need to thank him. Dr. Anthony Patton, University of Toledo College of Pharmacy.
Greetings from the University College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. I'm representing Dean Early. He's the Dean of our college. I am Anthony Patton. I'm Assistant Professor of Pharmacy Practice. I have a Doctor of Pharmacy degree, so I'm the community pharmacist. Community pharmacy is my area of specialty. And so very interested in this topic with medications. I study really our interventions in the community pharmacy setting that we use to improve health. So as we're looking at all the different things, it's multidimensional, right? It's nutrition, it's health behaviors, but it's also as well as using your medications effectively. I think that's a piece of it as well. So I'm very excited about this talk and look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you. This gentleman has been a friend of mine for so long, and let me tell you, you talk about somebody who's been in the fight. Doug McGarry, Executive Director, Area Agency on Aging, has been fighting for seniors for how long, Doug, in this community?
Too long.
I'm not kidding you. He has really been the chief advocate for seniors for as long as I can remember. So please welcome him.
I'm Doug McGarry with the Area Agency on Aging. I too am a native Daytonian. I grew up across the river in the Five Oaks area. As the Area Agency on Aging, we don't deal directly with health issues. What we deal with is those chronic conditions and the effects of those chronic conditions have on your doing the activities of daily living. You know, getting up in the morning, walking to your bathroom, transportation, food, eating. What we specialize in is assisting you in remaining in your own home so that you can be and continue in your community and be a vital component to those around you. That's what we do for a living, and we want everyone to call us, and we can come up with a plan to allow you to keep your independence. Thank you.
Next we have Tim Beat, President, St. Mary Development Corporation.
Good morning. St. Mary Development Corporation creates affordable housing, especially for seniors. And in the Dayton area, we've created about 40 housing projects. These are apartments, and about 3,000 Dayton area residents live in those. So you might think, well, why is a housing organization on a panel like this? One of the other things that we do, and we've been doing this for about 3 years, is service coordination, where we work with our senior residents to connect them to the services they need. And usually those are health related, whether it's Medicaid and Medicare, transportation to the doctor, because as you and I both know, the healthcare system is so simple that anybody can figure it out. So we often play the role that family members used to, helping a parent navigate some of those things. So we're proud to be here and proud to say that we partner with most of the other people on this panel.
Thank you. Give him a welcome. And And last but certainly not least, Ernest Boyd, Executive Director, Ohio Pharmacists Association. And we also want to give him a big thanks because he traveled here today from Columbus. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Ernie Boyd. Excuse me, I'm a pharmacist. My wife owns an independent, much smaller than Nottam's. I just appreciate so much what Nottam's doing. I know you really don't care too much about my background, so let me use my minute to sing the praises of the man who owns Ziks Pharmacy. He's been a friend of mine, and I mean that sincerely, for almost 30 years. And when he invested in this place 7 years ago, he put his lifeblood into this community. He now has hired close to 30 people in 7 years. He is providing this forum, and every day he talks face-to-face with you. The people who have diabetes don't just have diabetes. Many times they have heart conditions, they have other things that require the treatment of 3 or 4 physicians. And the pharmacist is the one who knows most about all the medications. And so the only one who can really negotiate for you, the patient, with the physicians to make sure you get the right medications is the pharmacist. Secondly, what we find is a large percentage of people don't take their medications properly, over 50%. And if you don't really feel a symptom, as you don't with diabetes up front, you have a lot of people that just don't take the meds, right? And so his job, Nottam's job, and what he's done in this community to get people to understand how important it is what makes me get up every morning for the thousands of pharmacists I represent. But this one pharmacist, to me, is a bright, shining light for every community. And I am so proud of him and what he's done. And Nottam, I salute you.
All right, so I'm going to throw a few questions out to our panelists. And again, raise your hand if you have a question and we'll come and pick that up. And I figured since we're starting out from the beginning, let's just dive into probably the most talked about issue and probably the hardest to understand and explain, and that is affordable access to health care. It continues to be confusing, a frustrating process for many people in the community. We've all watched television, read newspapers about the debate and the fight in Washington, D.C., which really does not answer the question about the future of healthcare in this country. So what can the average citizen do to be prepared to navigate the complicated process of affordable access to healthcare? Now that's a really hard question. So I'm going to give a big old round of applause to who's going to stand up and take a stab at this from the very beginning. Sean, why are you leaning back? What can, that's what I'm talking about, Dr. Roy. Give him a hand.
One of the other hats that I wear is being on the board of directors for the American Academy of Family Physicians. And about a month or so ago, we were on Capitol Hill talking to our legislators about maintaining health care rights to all Americans. If you ask people the question about what is the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, usually there's a political lean to that. And people will say, well, I don't like that, if they know what it is. But now they've demonized it, or they tried to demonize it by calling it Obamacare. And some people will say, well, I don't like Obamacare, but yeah, the Affordable Care Act, that's great. It's one and the same, okay? So if nothing else, what happened in 2010, by a very, very narrow margin, is that the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act became a reality in the United States. It literally has been talked about as far as care for all Americans for nearly 100 years. Nearly 100 years, all the way back, to Roosevelt administration, so on and so forth. So long and short of it is that it caused people to start recognizing that healthcare should be a priority for the richest country on the face of this earth. It's a shame that not all Americans had healthcare. At the time, in 2010, there were probably about 50 million Americans that did not have access to health care other than going to the emergency room. And lives are being lost. As of 2017, we have about, we're down to about still 20 million Americans. So again, it has caused us to talk about it. It has caused us to move closer to having full insurance for all, but we need you to recognize and educate yourself about the importance of maintaining this for everyone. The new, it's just been proposed by the House, will leave still about, what did I say, 25 million Americans that will not have access to health care. That's a problem, folks. You need to write your Congress people, you need to write your senators, you need to email them, phone call them, do whatever it takes to let them know that people will die. These things about getting insulin pumps for people that need them, you don't have access to health care, guess what? You will not be able to get those things and people will die. Children, like Jimmy Kimmel was talking about that on television a couple of weeks ago. People die. It's not about politics, it's about lives, what we should be doing as Americans. They work for us. Let them know that you're not satisfied with this thing about taking this right away from 25 million Americans. We have the lowest uninsured rate of Americans in decades in the United States because of the Affordable Care Act. And to take it away because of a campaign promise, that is just ludicrous. Makes no sense. So that's in a nutshell.
Can I add something to that? I think that we need to do all those things that Gary said, but we need to talk about this at our jobs. We need to talk to our friends. We need to talk to people in church. We need to talk to folks, everyone we can, to help them understand that, so that they're not dependent upon Medicaid, because that's one of the biggest group of people who are going to lose out if we change things, are going to be those underemployed young adults who don't have children. So we have a lot that we can do. And I think some of that is educating each other. Some of that is making sure that we pay attention to a lot of the other things that impact health that we need to teach people to pay attention to.
That's great. I find that people are quick to blame and slow to understand when it comes to affordable health care. For example, I had a friend of mine who was complaining that she couldn't get her MRI because he had affordable health care. And when I inquired, she didn't have affordable health care. She had commercial insurance through her employer. But everyone wants to blame. What we have to understand is in this country we have so many people that with the Affordable Care Act can get health care that they weren't able to do before. I see people now that can come in that I've been trying to get to for years. Doc, I don't have insurance. Doc, I don't have insurance. As soon as they got the insurance, Doc, I'm here. I got insurance now. Okay, let's get this ball rolling. Because we're already 3 to 4 years behind. For example, when you're first diagnosed with diabetes, you may have already had it for 3 to 4 years and not know it. Because it's a silent killer, just like hypertension can be a silent killer. So if you're 3 to 4 years behind diagnosis, and then you're 2 to 3 years behind getting treatment, a lot of the symptoms and side effects come in 10 years. You're already 5 years to 7 years in the hole. So the Affordable Care Act can adversely affect those who are making money because they have to sacrifice a pay cut. But that is for the greater good. That comes with the territory. You can't just treat the rich and not the poor. We have to also urge the physicians to be able to take the affordable care payment, especially the specialists, because it does no good if I take a lot of patients and then they need an eye doctor or a surgeon, and the surgeons and eye doctors don't take the insurance. So there's pros and cons to it. We have to get a better understanding of it, and we all need to put our pride aside and be human and understand that it's for the greater good of our country. Because if a person goes to the emergency room all the time, or there's that incurs a lot of costs. Who's going to pay that? We are as taxpayers. So you're going to pay on the front end or pay on the back end? I'd rather pay on the front end and keep people healthy, keep them out of the emergency room, and keep them in a better position mentally and physically that deal with them in a tragic situation.
Sean, go ahead, Dr.
Oh, I just wanted to echo on the pharmacy end too. Prior to the Affordable Care Act, you would see people come into the pharmacy, they check their blood pressure, they check their blood sugar, and they do have symptoms, and they're not able to get care. And after the Affordable Care Act, you have people coming in, getting their medications. So they've been to the doctor, and they're getting treatment, they're getting their insulin, their hypertension medication, and they're being healthy. It's keeping them out of the emergency room. So just from my experience, I really worry about what they're going to do in terms of either taking this benefit away or not as many people will have insurance and have access to that care. But patients are coming in to get their medication, and it's helping them to live longer life.
Sean, let me pull you in because Dr. Bethel talked about people coming to the emergency room. And I know that part of the discussion has been if the rights that the Affordable Care Act provided are taken away, that people will, like Dr. Bethel said, start going more and more to the emergency room. Talk a little bit about, from a health system perspective, what that looks like in terms of treating the indigent and how the lack of having a county hospital plays into that.
Yeah, sure. You know, I think we've heard a lot of the rhetoric around this conversation. When you look at emergency room health care, that's the most expensive care possible. I mean, the pound of prevention goes a long way in having that doctor up front, that primary care physician, to help you navigate through those problems initially is essential. But when you show up to the emergency room, that is, you activate tons of resources. You're talking 2 to 3 to 4, sometimes 5 times the cost of what it would normally cost something else. And for Premier Health, we see about 75 to 80%, I'm gonna say this again, 75 to 80% of the imaging care. That's who we see in Premier Health. So if you can imagine all of the other people who now come to our hospitals who do not have health care insurance. So we're already not being compensated for a good chunk of the care. Now just imagine if some of those things are now taken away. We're going to start seeing more and more folks show up to the emergency department seeking primary care through the most expensive form of care. All right? So think about what then happens to the institution in this community that has to bear a lot of that cost. Think about what starts to happen. Costs go up, wait times go up, might have you have potential layoffs as well because you cannot afford to take care of it. So sometimes a health issue becomes a political one, right? Sometimes that's the case, and so I think some of our panelists talked about it. You have to be politically savvy enough to understand what the health issues are, and then let your voice be heard, because you'd be surprised just how much what happens in the rhetoric, what happens in DC, affects you right here and right at home. So from a healthcare perspective, I will tell you that Premier has always stepped up to the challenge to meet the needs of the community. Sometimes, if that burden continues to be pushed on one institution over and over and over again, at some point things have to begin to change, operational things have to change as well. I'm extremely proud of what Premier has been able to do in this community in terms of taking care of the indigent, folks who don't have the health care insurance, who do not have. And it continues to be a challenge. At the same time, it's an honor to actually do that. However, we do need your voice, we do need your help, we do need you to be advocates for your own health as well.
And it's also important to say that emergency room docs are just going to get you stabilized, and then then you're out. So you need to see physicians. You need to be under a physician care so that they can help manage you and your health so that you're not in the emergency room. So let's talk about chronic diseases. Kendall talked about diabetes. We know cancer, hypertension, all of that ties into things that plague our community. And oftentimes I hear the arguments, well, that's just about our culture. So I'm interested in getting this panel's perspective about whether or not chronic diseases are really just about the environment that we live in, or are they habits, or is there another reason why these things seem to plague our community? Go, Kendall.
In my personal opinion, I feel like a lot of it is habit and just saying it is what it is. I grew up in a household that loved fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread. Take a 5-pound bag of sugar and put it in sweet tea. And now you serve the sweet tea up, you still see the sugar swirling around the bottom of it. That's the household I grew up in. Y'all laughing, but some of y'all still doing that right now.
It's red only for me, red true.
That's grandma's house. That's where we got it from. And it's a habit. It's all about breaking the cycle. And my thing is, if you see that you have an issue, and somebody pointed out to you and say, okay, just make a small change. And I use this term all the time. You don't have to take your refrigerator and go throw it in the ocean and start from scratch. Just take a little bit out at a time. We love starches in my house, and I know a lot of people do. One of the substitutes that I do, I'm a sandwich guy. I love making sandwich out of anything. If I got bread, I'm gonna make a sandwich out of it. It's on my plate. But I try not to eat potatoes, a lot of heavy starches, pizza and things like that. If I get a sandwich, I'm gonna substitute fries and get either fruit or a salad. Instead of me eating 2 burgers like I used to, with everything in the refrigerator on it, I go to 1 burger with everything in the refrigerator. I mean, you have to make light of the situation instead of looking at it like doomsday. I love sweets. I go back to that. My grandma made the best pecan pies in the world. Anybody ever had tea cakes? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Woo! It's hard to even explain. No, they like little cookies. Almost. It's just goodness. You touch it, they fall apart. And they're sweet, and it's kind of like they got like just a little dusting of sugar on them. It's hard to explain. I hadn't had nobody that can make it yet. We getting all off in left field now. Because I'll talk about that all day long. My grandma used to make me and my brother a whole container of them, and we would fight over them. And she started making 2. Now, we can't do that anymore. Change your habits. It's all about doing one thing at a time. Find where your issues are. The doctor says, look, you have high blood pressure. You need to quit taking so much salt in. Everybody wants salt on their food, seasoning. You know, you can get seasonal or Mission Dash to give you a little bit of taste. But when your mama, grandmama, or your wife says, hey, baby, it's too much salt, don't do that. Don't get mad about it. They're trying to save your life. Everybody in my family has high blood pressure. I have a history of heart disease. I'm on deck with all of that because I have diabetes. So I have to make sure I pay attention to that. Coming along with the disease that I live with, that brings a lot of things to the forefront. That's just my opinion. I feel a lot of it is habit and just changing it slowly, not all at one time, because when you do that, you give up on the process. Just take one thing each week and just kind of implement it, and I feel like that'll help. So,
if I can add to that a little bit, I do think habits do play a role. I also do believe that there's a both and. I think it's both personal habits, but I also do think it is the environment that we do live in. Where you live, work, and play has a greater impact on a person's health than we actually do realize. Let's look at Flint, Michigan, for example. We look at Flint, Michigan, where the lead water was going into their pipes, right? Those citizens didn't wake up that morning saying, hey, I want to drink lead all day. I want to feed it to my children. They didn't do that. I also believe most folks do not wake up wanting to be unhealthy. I think folks wake up generally with some sort of optimistic view. However, the environment that you do live in can definitely impact your health. We've got food deserts. The city of Dayton has the dubious distinction of being one of the top 10 food deserts in the nation, meaning that you can't get fresh fruits and vegetables within a 1 to 2 mile radius of where you live. Think about that for a second. You cannot even live a plant-based diet if you wanted to. So even if you're motivated to change a habit, if the environment that you live in is not conducive for that habit, you're just a person now with a hope and a wish versus the environment that allows you to live that healthy lifestyle that you want to. So I do believe it's personal habit, but for those personal habits to actually manifest it, your environment has to be conducive for that to happen.
The way we sum that up is, what are the social determinants of health? What are the things that happen in our lives day in and day out that these men actually help with? Where do you live? Do you have affordable housing? Is mold growing on the walls? You know, are things happening in your life that stress you out all the time? And we know that adverse events that happen to us over and over and over again cause us to have health problems for the rest of our lives sometimes. When children suffer from adverse childhood experiences, many of those kids are more likely to have high blood pressure later on. So are they living in a home where there's chaos? Are they living in a home where they're without? You know, if you have to worry about keeping your light on, you're not really worried about what's in the refrigerator, because the refrigerator ain't gonna work. So you know, those social determinants of health are one of the things that we have to get better at doing. As someone said earlier, we have to get better in healthcare at looking upstream and seeing what's causing the problems that we're having downstream.
Yeah, and if you look at our history, and even today, if you had a family with 5 or 6 kids, and you go to the grocery store, you can't afford the stuff that's in the organic section. So where do you end up going? You go and you get that 25-cent thing of Kraft macaroni and cheese. So that plays, I mean, it's true. That plays into it. You know, people want, I think Sean's right, I think some people want to be healthier, but they just don't have the money to be able to afford those fresh organic fruits and vegetables. That's one of the reasons why I was really happy to see that the RTA hub now has fresh produce, where people who are traveling by bus can get fruits and vegetables right there to help in what you talked about in terms of food deserts. Let me get our friend Doug and our friends from St. Mary's to talk about these chronic diseases in terms of environment. You're helping seniors find housing. That plays a lot into the health of someone who is older finding good housing. Speak to that a little bit.
I think one of the things with chronic diseases you have to remember, is that my fault?
Yeah.
Is that they do not get better over time. I remember my grandmother used to always say, "Oh, it'll get better." Chronic diseases don't get better over time. And I think many times people are committed to their house, but the house that they live in may have been bought when they had a growing family. It may have been bought for growing the kids in the school system. And now they find themselves in a house that's 2 stories, bathrooms upstairs, has a big yard, and so they become trapped in their own home. And when they become trapped in their own home, they tend to get isolated, loneliness kills. And so oftentimes people need to think ahead of the game and say, maybe it's time that I move to another location. These steps keep me trapped in this house. Transportation. I need to be close to the grocery store, close to the doctor, close to something. Your environment is critical. The other thing that we're seeing is that oftentimes our own environment are trapping people. Many people just don't feel it's safe to get out and walk around the block to get a little bit of exercise. They're afraid of the kids, the dogs. I hear it more and more every day. I don't want to go outside because those dogs are going to get me. These dogs are running loose. And it's, again, that's those chronic conditions. No, they aren't going to go away, but we can manage them if we can have those accesses. And again, other thing is that people suffer in silence. They don't talk. They don't ask people questions. And slowly they become that isolated individual that sees no one and goes nowhere. And the next thing you know, the interventions are too little, too late. So be progressive, think ahead, and you're never too old to try something new. And we've seen many folks who have gone from their own big house to a building like St. Mary's has, and meet new people, new friends, new loves. It happens, and we need to encourage people, don't stop, keep going.
Tim?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's really two aspects that we see to it. One is the physical structure that you live in. So when you look at our buildings, there are 0 steps from the front door to your apartment. Well, that makes a big difference when it comes to falls and things like that. Is your bathroom handicap accessible? And some of these older homes where you have mold problems and things like that. When we talk to our seniors, the biggest issue for them is safety and security. So if they feel safe, that makes a big difference in their lives. And it's interesting, for many of us, if you ask somebody, well, what do you like best about your home? They'll talk about, well, I like this media room or the kitchen or something like that. And I'll never forget, there was one of our residents, and I asked her, what do you like best about your apartment? And she said, I can sleep at night. I said, what do you mean you can sleep at night? She said, well, I was living alone, I was isolated in a single family home. And in the summer, the neighborhood kids would come and drink and smoke on my front porch, and I was scared to death every night. Every night, I couldn't sleep. I was afraid of the kids. I didn't want to call the police. And now she felt safe and secure. And you look at what the impact that has. So the physical structure is a big part of it. The second part that we're really all about is the service coordination. Many seniors give up. They make a couple phone calls, and Medicaid's confusing, and they give up on their health care altogether. And so we work with them so they have somebody to talk to find out what insurance does your primary care physician. If there's a change, we can walk them through that. We can connect them to utility assistance. We work with the food bank in our Hoover campus where we have 300 seniors, where they bring out truckloads of fresh produce and things like that. So a big part of the solution, I think, are these partnerships. Each of us has a different expertise. Nobody can do all of it. We work with housing, but we're working with the area agency on aging. We work with about 100 different local nonprofits on the healthcare side. But working together that way, we can find those solutions. No one person at this table will be able to do it, but together as a community, we have a really good chance of improving these things.
Give me MC privilege. That's the problem. When you have the mic, you get to do what you want to do and go off script, which could be why Joyce might not invite me back. But I do want to make a point of let's welcome one of my personal mentors and just love him to death, as Bing Davis. I want to make sure we recognize and thank him for coming. He is a true asset to this community, and we just love him. Also want to make a point of saying Trotwood Mayor Mary McDonald just joined us, so we want to thank her. I'm going to go back to my previous career in television. I did a news story about a senior, and this question really is about anybody, but it was about a senior who had different health situations. And so she was seeing different specialists. She had a primary care physician, and the long and the short of it was, at the end of the day, we went to her house, and imagine a brown paper Kroger bag. You know how big that is. Half of her bag was full with all the medication she was on. And the purpose of the story was about the doctors that she was seeing were not all connected. So this doctor prescribed this doctor prescribed that. We don't know if it was interacting. It was a hot mess. So let's talk a little bit about, and get our pharmacy panelists involved, about medication management and how we can, and that's for anybody, seniors or anybody, how we can manage the number of medications and making sure that the doctors are talking to each other and the medications are not harming the patient in all of that chaos.
One of the things that you as a patient need to be aware of is that there is a law that requires a pharmacist to offer to talk to you. Have you ever been to a pharmacy where they say, you want to talk to the pharmacist to get a prescription? And what do you normally say? No. Okay? I'm telling you right now, if you get a new prescription, the only answer is yes. Secondly, you need to know the name of your pharmacist. If you know the name of your physician and your dentist, gynecologist, whatever, but you can't name your pharmacist, you got a problem, okay?
And this multiple drug situation is so common. They're estimating that 20% of all nursing home admissions and 10% of all hospital admissions are because people are taking the drugs wrong and have multiple interactions. The pharmacists are now being paid by CareSource under Medicaid to slow down and talk to you and evaluate. And once a year, under Medicare Part D, pharmacists do a complete medication review. Why? Because they are solving so many issues. I used to be a real pharmacist. For 30 years, I've flown a desk. But 2 years ago, one of my relatives asked me to go to an appointment at Ohio State with her. And I was shocked to see she was on 14 meds when we walked in the door. She was becoming dizzy when she was driving. And so the physician began to write a prescription, and I kind of lost it. And I said, Doc, my real pharmacists tell me that in an older patient with multiple meds, 14, you have a drug interaction going on or you have too many drugs. Before you write another script that we talk about, he said, let's do it. By the time we left, we cut her from 14 drugs down to 6. She had been in the emergency room every month. For the last 2 years, she's not been in the emergency room. She saved $1,200 a month in copays. And I'm an old guy pharmacist. My son will go head to head with me on pharmacology and all that any day. He's a pharmacist and enjoys rubbing my nose in it. But I will tell you this, that not all his pharmacists are clinical pharmacists, but it's up to you. Do you see what I'm saying? To talk to them. And so it's multiple meds, but it's even taking the drugs you have wrong. We have patients who go through a transplant and lose the transplant because they can't afford the copay and they don't talk to the pharmacist. So, yeah, that's what I have to say is, your pharmacist in this situation, your doc knows the best about your heart, but when they start writing drugs that conflict with your oncologist or your others, you've got to have a pharmacist in the middle of that to call them and say, Doc, appreciate what you're doing, but 2 of you are prescribing narcotics. How about no? Try again. And it's not always an easy conversation, but you need it.
I would say, I've offered the service. It's called medication therapy management. And so especially if you're Medicare Part D, and you talked about the Medicaid CareSource as well, you qualify for that service. And you can check with your insurance and check and make sure, see if you do and who are the providers in your community for that. But that has helped so much because what we do, we'll sit down and go through we do a comprehensive medication review. So we'll look at all those medications. And I can tell you, I've made a lot of recommendations in discontinued medication decreases, recommended dose decreases, and it's really helped people. And I have my own story where an individual was on an inhaler, should not have been on an inhaler, was going back and forth to the hospital, got them off that medication and it helped them. So there are services out there, yes. When you go to the pharmacy, oftentimes they'll just say, do you have any questions? And people will say no. You can bring your medication list, say yes, and the pharmacist will take time to talk with you. So that's what I would recommend.
Dr. Kim?
I would say know your medications. When a doctor prescribes it to you, know the name of the medication, the purpose, and its side effects. Ask questions. Bring all your medication, your supplements, and your over-the-counter medications with you to the doctor, because even though we have electronic medical records that has improved greatly our communication between the physicians, I applaud that, but there are some things that you might be taking that may not be on the list, or may have been discontinued, but you're still taking, or you suppose it has stopped, or suppose it has started, and you didn't. So bring your meds to the doctor. It's easier to deal with the bottles a lot of times for me than a list. Bring all that to the doctor with you. So that bag of grocery, that grocery bag full of pills, bring that to the doctor so they can be weeded out. Don't stop medications or add medications without talking to your doctor. People will do it all the time. They'll, oh, that medication, how's it working? Oh, doc, I took that for 2 days and I stopped it because I had an itch. Well, if you stop the medication, did the itch go away? No, it still continued. Did you restart the medication? No. Don't stop it without talking to your doctor. I wanted to backtrack and digress if I may. We identified a lot of problems. I like to introduce some solutions. Motivation is an action. It's not whether you want to, it's a verb. Motivation is action. So find something in your life that you want to change about yourself, your personal environment, your personal health, and make a goal. The goal doesn't care how you feel, it's about getting to the end or accomplishing the goal. Learn and know better. When you know better, you do better. Study other cultures and find out what the Mediterranean diet is about. Find out what Chinese medicine is about. Find out what herbs and supplements that are available in all parts of the world that have been helpful for years and years and years that we know nothing about because we isolate ourselves in our culture and what grandmama did. There's a whole wide world of health and cultures and things that are out there that are helpful that God made on this earth that we need to find out about. Veggies, plant-based diet are the way to go. How many fruits and vegetables does the average person eat in a day? Any volunteers? Anybody want to shout out a number? 1 to 3 as a day max. That's what we eat. We're supposed to have 3 to 4 servings of vegetables and 3 to 4 servings of fruits every day. Different varieties, different colors, different kinds. Yeah, exactly. We need all that to go. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. So it's time for change. Try to do 80% clean and 80% healthy things, and then 20% pick out, splurge on those things that you want to have, that crab legs or that fried chicken or whatever sweet it may be. But do 80% clean, and then do 20% of what you want. And you'll find out that what you want, your taste buds kind of change. You don't want it anymore, or as much.
We got everything? Okay. Now, let me do this. We're running out of time, and I do have 2 questions. If anybody else have a question, please write your question down and get it to me because we're getting ready to rock and roll through those. Okay, the first question, and I don't know who can answer it, if we have someone who can answer it. Too often I hear that single payer is better than Obamacare. Not sure what they mean. Is there a difference? Is single payer a spin-off of Obamacare? Who wants to tackle that?
I can try. Okay. I think the best example of single payer is Medicare. Medicare is a single payer system. And, you know, there's some limitations with Medicare, but when you think of access to health care among those who are older or disabled who qualify for Medicare, they have the best access, unquestionably. And so what you see there is a single payer system work. Now, the drug plan, yeah, probably could be improved. But if you want to understand what a single payer system is, look at Medicare. That's the best example in the United States of single payer.
Dr. Leroy?
Yeah, so again, just to piggyback on that, when you're talking about Obamacare, that brings us, and I hesitate to always use that term, the Affordable Care Act. It gets us closer to single payer. The largest insurer in the United States is the United States government. You talk about Medicaid for older adults, older individuals, and people with disabilities. You talk about Medicaid for the extremely poor, and you talk about the Department of Defense, and you talk about the VA. And roll those together, you're talking about the vast majority of health care coverage in this country. Single payer is just basically saying that ideally everyone is covered by a single payer, like socialized medicine, like in Great Britain, Canada, Cuba, other places. So that's the big thing. And right now, our country is just intolerant of the idea of having single payer ownership where just the U.S. government pays for everything. So that's the ideal single payer.
Okay, here's our last question is, how can we as a community, as the African American community, better support caregivers, those folks who are living with loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's? How can we better support the caregiver?
I think first we have to reach out, not just the person who is receiving care, but also reach out to that caregiver. That so many caregivers themselves don't ask for help, they just silently carry on. And oftentimes it's our responsibility to say to that caregiver, can I help you? Can I give you a break? They aren't going to ask for help. and oftentimes they suffer in silence and want to ask their siblings or neighbors or something, and they're too busy, is their common thing. So take a moment and think about someone in your family, in your community, that you know is a caregiver, and say, I'm going to come in and help you. What do you want me to do?
Okay, one last question. Can we talk a little bit about, someone wants you to address, somebody on the panel, to please address the issue of smoking that still is prevalent in our community. Don't all jump. Aside from the fact that you need to stop.
Well, I think, just from a demographic standpoint, Ohio generally skews older in population. And Ohio generally has was an industrial state and agricultural state. And some of those characteristics of smoking, different habits kind of stem from that. And it's been perpetual, although different legislation has helped curb public smoking, the ban of certain tobacco products. There's still a segment of the population that just still smokes. I mean, it just still happens. I mean, I've literally seen people leave the hospital in their gowns to go smoke, and they're in for cancer treatment, right? So there's no health benefit at all to smoking. There are several smoking cessation programs. There are several ways to get help. There are several ways to help curb that. If you know someone who does smoke, definitely hook them up with the different services that are out there. Again, smoking cessation programs have been proven to help curb that appetite. But I would encourage, someone simply said it, not to stop it. Just, if you can, get help, find ways to stop smoking.
You know, someone told me a long time ago, I used to wonder, how could somebody smoke? We know the side effects, we know the health, we know and then a health professional told me how addictive smoking is. So I get it, and so I'm glad you talked about the programs. We do have a guest here that wanted me to mention that No Menthol Sunday is May 28th, is that right? Okay, No Menthol Sunday is May 28th. Okay, and then, okay, I'm not quite sure what this question means. So whoever wrote it, if I might have you stand and clarify this. We're talking about diabetes and hypertensive patients are not being properly educated who happen to be kidney patients. So I think they want to talk about that issue between diabetes and hypertension as it relates to people who have kidney issues. So one of my docs talked it. Am I asking the right question? Oh.
That's for me. I'm from the Kidney Foundation, and one thing that I'm finding with the people that we talk to that have kidney problems, they don't know that diabetes is the leading cause of kidney disease and that hypertension is the second leading cause. So what we're seeing are a lot of diabetic and hypertensive patients who have lost kidney function, but they haven't been diagnosed with kidney disease.
So you're asking about what we need to do we need a better system of education.
What we're doing on the primary care level to better diagnose kidney disease and make those patients aware of their risks.
And again, I think the key right there is education and awareness that if you are hypertensive, like Mr. Simmons was talking about, he said that most of your family members are hypertensive. Again, they need to all be screened for evidence of very early kidney disease because they may start spilling some protein in their urine. So just a simple office test, dipping their urine just to check for protein. Very early way to say, okay, we need to do some intervention here. If you're diabetic, you're at high risk for developing kidney disease. There are blood tests that you can do to actually check for early evidence of deterioration of kidney function. Ask your doctor, has she or he checked for kidney function tests. In certain medications also can deteriorate your kidney function. So if you're hypertensive or diabetic, you shouldn't be taking a lot of what they call NSAIDs, aspirin, Aleve, Advil, Motrin type products and such. So again, just educating yourself of early evidence of kidney disease. Very good point.
One thing I wanted to add is doctors are a lot of times in a real-time crunch. And ask your doctor, do you have a diabetic educator that can talk to them? Do you have somebody, a patient care coordinator that can talk to me about the diseases and my medications and all those sorts of things? We need to start requiring our physicians to do these kinds of things. We don't make a fuss about the fact that you don't have these things. We need to ask them why not. Because, you know, it's only a certain amount of time the doctor will be there. You know, I had a patient that told me one time she went to go see her doctor. This is the mother of one of my patients. And the doc set a little timer on his phone. And when that time was up, he got up and left. So we have to demand the health systems that take care of us to give us what we need. We have to make use of community health workers that can come into the homes and go through that grocery bag of medicines and help sort through what's happening. These things can happen, but we got to make it happen. We got to fuss about it. We got to make sure that we tell our doctors we expect them to be able to send us to somebody who can educate us better about diabetes. Because it's not all going to be done in that 6x9 room with your doctor. It's just not.
That's true. I find a lot of times I send my patients out to diabetes educators and diabetes education, and I get a note that the patient went for 1 or 2 classes and stopped coming. So I get a lot of issues with patients that you try to educate and they don't want to come in. Why do I always have to come in? Why do every time I come you always have to get blood and urine? Because we got to check your kidneys, we got to check your potassium, we got to check your liver, we got to check these things. We got to make sure the medication is working and not harming you. You have to make sure you're on time and on top of the care because it's silent. If it were a headache, if it caused you pain, you'd be knocking my door down. But because diabetes and hypertension are often silent, you have to pull people in. I try to tell you, you need blood every 3 months, you need to be seen every 3 months. Winter, spring, summer, fall. This is your winter visit, this is your spring visit, see me next quarter. So a lot of it's education, but a lot of it, you have to push back on the patient. Sometimes the patients don't want to fall through because it's silent. Doc, I got other things that are more impressive. I said, there's nothing more impressive than your life. I said, these things are, with every heartbeat, is killing you. So you either control it, or it's going to control you.
And then, and this is the last question, and I'm going to go to Dr. Patterson. What health issues are on the rise with children due to lack of proper nutrition?
All those things we've been talking about.
We got a shout out from the
yeah, all those things. The generation of children being reared today is predicted to be the first generation in the United States that did not outlive their parents. For the first time since they've been keeping statistics, the life expectancy in the United States went down last year. Only by a month or 2, but it went down. And one of the biggest reasons is because people are developing diabetes earlier. People are developing high blood pressure earlier. About 15 years after your diagnosis of diabetes, many people start showing the effects of diabetes. They start showing poor kidney function. They start having bad eyes. They develop hypertension. They start having poor circulation and they lose a toe or they lose a fingertip. And those things are going to happen earlier in the lives of your children and your grandchildren if we don't tell them no sometimes. No, you can't have another helping. No, you don't need a snack right now, I'm cooking dinner. No, you need water. No, you don't need to be able to sit there playing your video games, go outside and play. We have to help our children learn a better way of living. Today, there's too much stuff for them to do, too many distractions, too many things that keep us distracted. We're looking at our phones and our tablets and iPads too. While our kids are in the room with their headphones on. I only had 3 channels on my TV. I made noise in the house. My mama made me go outside and lock the screen door. And went on and did her laundry. And I was out there for hours making up stuff to do. You know, I didn't have to have a football program to go to. If we had 5 people, we played football. One person was the quarterback for both teams, and I had 2 people to throw the ball to.
I didn't ask you to get in the pulpit, but
So I'm just saying we have to be willing to do what's necessary because our children are going to suffer. They are suffering. They are. I've, the last month, referred 2 kids to a program to look at bariatric surgery for them.
Oh my God.
In the last month. So it's for real.
I'll say something on that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to finish up. My biggest thing is I absolutely love kids. I'm a large child inside myself. And I'm a people watcher. And when I walk into a room to speak to kids on a health subject, I can automatically spot the ones who either have diabetes or eventually want to deal with it just by looking at it. And to me, that is so disappointing and it's sad. Like Doc was saying down the end, we do our kids like this every summer. Get so used to playing on your iPads and video games and headphones and stuff. We lock the door, we open the window up, and it's like a drive-through. You want something, you stick your head in and tell me what you need. You can't come in the house for the next 2 hours. I don't care if you're hot. There's a water hose out there.
You went right home. Yeah, that's true. That's real.
But I'm gonna say this, and I'll end. What he said was true, and I have to check myself on this also. You can tell your child to go outside and do all these things and go play and do this and that. But if you're physically able enough, you still got a little youth in you, you gotta get involved because we get distracted too. Yes, sometimes we got stuff we need to get done, but if you get out and kind of show them and get involved, it kind of plants the seed and keeps it going. So I have to do it myself with, I'm just getting out of the house so I can get stuff done. And then you end up in there, all right, I'm gonna kind of circle the web a little bit. You gotta get out there and sweat a little bit and make up games and, like you said, not have camps to go to. Go build a fort, anything. So.
Thank you. We appreciate you all. And let me just say this. We also want to give a shout out to Central State University because they received some new funding. They have a brand new program at the university, the Expanded Food Nutrition Education Program. So let's give them a big hand. This concludes our forum. The last thought I will leave you with started with Kendall. And he talked about how, as a culture, we don't talk to our family. You may have known Todd Bell. He was former Ohio State football player from Middletown. He played for the Chicago Bears, had a great career. He retired, was working for the University of Ohio, the Ohio State University, had just had a physical, driving to work. Truck ran off the road, had a massive heart attack. When he had his full physical, like a month prior, his doctor asked him one critical question. Do you have a history of heart disease in your family? And he said no, because to him, he did not. After he passed away, and they started talking to his family, they did. But we like to keep things secret about everything. About our health, about mental health. You know, we don't want anybody to know. So the biggest thing you could do is share your history with your family. 10 years ago, when I had my mammogram, I used to check, I had no family history of breast cancer. As I stand here today, I lost my oldest sister to breast cancer. So we have to know our history, and our culture has to do a better job sharing information. So that would be my plea to you as we leave today. The last thing I would ask you to do is you have before you a panel of professionals who could be anywhere else today. They probably are wondering what's going on in their offices, but they chose to spend their time here today, which they did not have to do because they have a mission to help our community. So let's give them a round of applause. I'm sure that you heard the passion from these panelists. They really are walking the walk. And then you have to give a big round of applause to my new BFF, my Pittsburgh Steelers man, Kendall Steelers. Now, Dr. Kim talked to us about how many servings of fruits and vegetables we are supposed to have every day, correct? And I'm looking at beautiful fruit in the back of the room. So you can get 1 or 2 servings in today. So take advantage of that. We're going to take a short break, and then the outdoor part of the community celebration will begin around 11-ish. 11-ish will be around in the back. For most of the displays will be in the back. So please stay with us. Call your friends. Tell them to come down. You know, we need to give Nada a shout out. Okay. You were busy working in your pharmacy, and your dear friend, who Joyce must be really close, because she calls him Ernie, but on my list it was Ernest. You did not hear the wonderful kind words he said about you, but he really admires what you've done in this community, as do we. So we want to give Nana an opportunity to say a few words, and then we will conclude this part of the program.
Thank you so much, the panelists. Sharon, I think you're a natural born talker. That's why you've been on TV all your life. Thank you so much, the sponsors. I think what motivated us was because we wanted to be part of the community, but to contribute. If you look at, when people come to the pharmacy, we see a lot of brothers that are stage 4 prostate cancer. We see, if you look around Dayton, that might be on the west side, you see a lot of dialysis centers. You ask why? Mainly from here to North Main to around even to Gettysburg now. And we say to ourselves, what can we do? That education is the cure. Because education is so wonderful. Without education, we won't be able to be proactive in helping people with different diseases. And so that's why we started this. So that we will help our people, particularly in Dayton, to be able to take care of themselves and live a healthy life. And then be able to draw their social security. Because you don't want to contribute to social security. Before you get to 65, you're already dead. Somebody else will use that money for you. And that's why we decided to have this forum. I just want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you for the sponsors, Premier and Noble Nordisk, and Mr. Simmons. Thank you so much for being here. You've been a great inspiration to a lot of people. We thank you, sir. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Nala. All right, so let's have some fruit. You can network. I'm sure our panelists will stay here for a couple minutes if you have some personal questions you might have, and then we'll see you out back beginning at 11.